Today I'll be talking about the anime 16-bit sensation Another Layer by Studio Silver. The story follows Konoha Kisato, who dreams of becoming a top artist but feels crushed by the state of the 2023 gaming industry. After a sudden trip back to 1992, she gets a second chance. Now working at a small startup during the golden age of visual novels, she has to trade her modern digital skills for old school tech to try and make her mark. I'm playing the Attack on Titan tribute game while we dive into the overall vibes, what I think of Konoha as a character, the references to anime culture, and more. Let's start with my first thought. So in terms of what drew me to 16-bit sensation, Another Layer, is definitely the aspect that it's a time travel otaku anime, where the character transports to the year of 1992. I was heavily intrigued by this because of the fact that this is a good opportunity to see the world of anime from before my time, seeing how the culture was way back in 1992. That was something I was really looking forward to, even if the show was going to be a flop or whatever. I have to say that the show really delivered in that regard. But I did like how the show bounced between eras as well. And with it being a game development anime, I was also intrigued to see how the tech from back then handled game development. As a former game designer myself, well, a student one, I was intrigued to see what was going to be similar or what's going to be different in terms of video game design. But it's nice to see that it was relatively similar, just more limited in technology, with some very interesting techniques. It's like watching the behind the scenes of various Disney movies, seeing the animators work their magic to make various 2D scenes work. That's the kind of vibes I got from this show as a first impression. In terms as to what drew me, it's just the opportunity to see anime culture from the year of 1992. I've seen plenty of other anime where it delves into otaku culture, but more often than not, it delves into otaku culture from the time the anime was released. There was one anime called Bokutachi no Remake, which handled otaku culture in the year of 2006 from the perspective of a character from the year 2020. I can't remember what year it was. But just nice to see otaku culture being presented from the lens of someone seeing it from the future, which this anime here delivered on. As for the overall vibes and tone of the series, I want to say it's really a nostalgic love letter to the 90s anime culture, as well as some reference here and there to the current era of otaku culture as well. It also covers a lot of video game development processes too, showing the industry standards and techniques of the time. I did like the overall vibe of Konoha using the newfound opportunity to achieve the things that she found difficult to achieve in her previous timeline. Because in the current day, things are heavily oversaturated. Not much is being innovated on anymore these days. From YouTube content, anime in general, to seeing Konoha struggle in the current timeline where despite all of her talent and effort to get to where she is, she's still unable to work on the things that she is passionate for. However, the moment that she transports to the year of 1992, due to her knowledge of the future and techniques, she was actually able to make history in multiple cases. So I just found it intriguing in general how despite techniques and talents in the current day would be a nothing burger at this moment in time, way back when, it would be the most innovative thing for its time. I just enjoyed that general dynamic throughout the show, really. It's a nice vibe and tone too. And I want to say, in terms of what makes this anime stand out to other time-traveling anime out there, is definitely its focus on game development and sci-fi practices, as well as the cultural clash between the 1990s and the modern era. Because it's really interesting to see a character use the situation that she was presented with to achieve the things that she couldn't achieve before. It's kind of like an isekai in that sense. Just given a chance to reincarnate, another chance of life. I just really like that general aspect of the show. I also really liked how the show tackled the technological shifts and perspective as well. Because when Konoha first came to the year of 1992, despite her talent, she was still overly reliant on the modern tech. So she kind of struggled to begin with in terms of getting used to the technology to be able to practice her modern talents. So it's just nice to see a character in a time travel setting still struggle because of the technological shifts or differences that they're accustomed to. Because normally in situations of time travel, the characters wind up being a bit overpowered because of their future knowledge, but in this scenario, despite still having future knowledge, they didn't have the technical prowess to put the future knowledge into action. It's quite interesting to see a time-traveling character struggle for once in a time travel scenario. So going forwards, I'll be talking about aspects of the show that will definitely lead into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the show yet, I suppose now would be a good time to click off this video and just give the show a watch. For those of you still here, the next thing I'll talk about is my overall impressions of Konoha as a protagonist. So she was voiced by Aoi Koga, who is famous for her role as Kaguya from Love is War. And I have to say that she portrays the character in a really hyperactive manner. It's very energetic, which kind of contrasts with the other characters when she transports to the year of 1992. Because she had this otaku energy about her, while everyone else around her is relatively formal, all things considered, compared to her. So it's an interesting impression. So it's an interesting dynamic she has when it came to interacting with other characters. It's kind of like a fish out of water kind of situation, where a character is extremely different to the people around her and brings that comic feel. I especially loved her artistic dreams as well. Where she struggled to make a difference in the modern world. But upon time traveling back to 1992, she makes full use of the opportunity to make the difference that she hoped to make. So speaking of supporting characters, the character that gave me the strongest impression is probably Mamoru. Because I enjoyed the aspect of his skepticism. Skepticism of Konoha when he first meets her, and was unsure if what she says about the future will come to be, as he's very generational, or boomer, if that's the term for it. Because I like his overall shtick of loving the PC-98 computer system, to the point that even 50 years later, or like maybe, I can't remember how long ago, or the year differences, maybe like 30 years, in a world of modern tech, he still has a warehouse full of PC-98s. So it's nice to see a character truly appreciate the tech from his time, to the point that he maintains it, utilized at some point in the future. And I also liked how he was quite the foil to Konoha as well. Just trying to make sense of the things Konoha's saying. But despite that, he's always happy to help Konoha in her endeavors, in the timeline that she's in. Such as the time he also helped Konoha rally up the team to help make the game that Konoha envisions to get out of debt. But yeah, I love this character throughout the show. Left quite the impression. So in terms of my overall impressions for the portrayal of the 90s game development era, I want to say it's really intriguing seeing all of the tech represented, from floppy disks, CRT monitors, the art development and techniques on the PCs. Like seeing Konoha's absolute culture shock to the lack of graphic tablets when it came to 2D drawings on the PCs. Like using a mouse to paint pixel by pixel. It was really intriguing to see. I also loved how the show did like a little history lesson on how they made the limited color palette feel fuller in pixel-based drawings of the time, because of the fact, due to the technique of dithering, I think it was, or tiling, where they combine pixels in a checkerboard pattern to create a second color, or a blend between the two colors. I thought that was a pretty cool moment, or a learning opportunity, even though it was definitely not my era. I also loved how seeing the similarities video game design from back then has to the modern day too. But despite the eras being like 30 years apart, there are some aspects that are still familiar and similar. general, I just love the overall vibes of the pre-internet creative environments, which was portrayed quite well in this anime. So, speaking in terms of favorite moments, or emotional moments, or hype moments now, the first one is definitely the moment when Konoha Mamoru was about to give a speech to Alcohol Software. To rally them out to help Konoha design or make a game to help them get out of debt. Konoha was definitely scared, as you might tell, as she was like an introverted otaku in the modern day. But after some complaints from Mamoru, Konoha herself starts to get fired up, and she says herself that it calls for a unique song for such a situation to hype herself up. And the song that plays was Madoka Magica's first opening by Clarice. Hearing that song all of a sudden, and played in such a manner, not a cover, like the actual song itself, was really, really... It kind of built upon a lot of nostalgia and hype. It's been so long since I've seen Madoka Magica, so hearing the song again, in that scenario, God, made me smile so much. And to be honest, I knew Madoka Magica was a really popular show. But I didn't realize to what extent until I seen 16-bit Sensation. Because alongside the Madoka Magica's opening theme being played during that one moment, there was plenty of other anime references too, as well as images of Madoka Magica being presented in the train line advertisements Konoha was in, which kind of demonstrated the popularity and cultural impact Madoka Magica had in the world of anime. Speaking of other moments as well, it's going to be a bit lighter in terms of like impact, but I really loved seeing all the references this show makes to a whole load of anime from all the eras as well. Because you get to see anime from the 2000s to the 2020s, such as Mashiro no Symphony, Saikano, Engaged Kiss. There's also a Girls and Panzer reference as well. There's like so many of them. It's so cool just to spot the references throughout the show. And I also love seeing even more references when Konoha time travels back to the 2000s or 1992. Because I was really surprised to see canon being referenced as well in the show. And it also had like a big role in the world building too. And honestly, just seeing other anime being represented from before my time, such as Comic Party. I can't remember the names off the top of my head because I haven't really seen them. But knowing that various anime from the 1990s was being represented in the show, I thought that was something to really appreciate. Another moment that I really enjoyed from the show that really stuck with me was definitely the moment when Konoha finds out that Akiba has really changed in a bad way because of her endeavors to make a game that made history previously. because it wasn't the future that she liked, as the personality of Akihabara was now no longer what she was familiar with, or is like non-existent now. So she gets help from Mamoru. So when they go to his warehouse, he reveals that all this time he has collected a whole load of PC-98s, a warehouse full, to one day utilize for whatever reason. And Konoha showing up was the perfect time to pull out all those PCs to make a game that will rival Konoha of the past. I thought that was pretty cool, the reveal that the moment the hero takes control in this show is the moment the hero is going to be facing off against their past self. Thought that was pretty cool. Intriguing. So yeah, I really love that moment when both characters get the resolve to act, and make a difference. Okay, so in terms of what I think the anime explores the most strongly, I definitely want to say nostalgia and progress for me, in my experience. But I love seeing all the anime that this anime represented from all eras, from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s. Because like I said before, it's kind of like a love letter to all eras. I suppose to add, I think the anime also explores otaku culture in general and how it has evolved over time, or how much has stayed the same despite the difference in eras and the technology. So I did like in the moment where the characters explore Comiket, or the anime convention. And even if it's the 90s, it's still relatively similar to how it is nowadays. I just thought that was pretty cool to represent. I thought it was just pretty cool how it was represented. And oddly nostalgic to how things worked back then. I also loved how the anime also explored how technology shaped the culture as well as the development of said culture. Because naturally with the shifts of technology throughout the anime, a lot of technology will be made obsolete, which, much to the dismay of Mamoru, made his PC-98s obsolete. But despite that, it was a really cool moment when, like I said before, Mamoru had a warehouse full of PC-98s to compete with the computing power of the modern world. It was really interesting to see snippets of how technology shapes video game development. Like porting new games to, or porting games to new consoles, using new techniques and equipment. I thought it was just really interesting to see play out. If I could spend one day inside the world of the anime, honestly, the things I would want to experience is just to walk around and see what the world was like in 1992, I think. Because on YouTube, I really like watching videos from like 2002 of what the world like was back then, especially in Japan. There's a lot of those kinds of videos out there of what the world was like. So having the opportunity to do that, just walking around, just seeing what the culture was like, especially in a world without smartphones, or its reliance on tech. Seeing the world where the internet was still in its infancy. I think that would just be really cool experience, even just for one day. It would also be cool just to see what shows, media, and whatnot were popular back then, or how they impacted the culture. Whether they would have a big presence in Akihabara at the time. Because nowadays, most of the popular shows from like the 90s, 2000s, and in some cases 2010s, are considered niche anime nowadays. Or, as people say, underrated, when it's just underrated because it's old. So seeing shows in their prime, way back when, would be really fun to see. I suppose my final thought is how the anime changed the way I think about retro games. Honestly, I always appreciated old school techniques to things. From hand-drawn animation, cell work, the classic paint and canvas. You know the drill. The things that eventually get replaced with digital methods. So seeing the way they worked on retro games through this show, I really loved seeing the techniques they used to bypass technological limits at the time. Like we talked about how they used this technique called dithering to compensate for the lack of color palette of the time, to give the illusion that a work has more colors than it did. Because nowadays, I want to say video game development is now pretty simple, all things considered. Like anyone could just learn everything on... Or everything is just made pretty simple nowadays, that everyone could easily understand the processes and replicate them for their own agenda. Because essentially they're riding on the experiences of maybe like millions of people. However, back then, during retro game development, most of the time they had to think up solutions to technical problems via their own knowledge base, if that makes sense. Nowadays we can just do a quick Google through the internet if we have a problem of any kind. Back then, during the retro game development era, I suppose if they had a problem with their software or bugs and whatnot, it's not a simple Google away. You either had to figure out a solution yourself, or hopefully encounter someone who can help you in that regard. I like that aspect. So I like that aspect of appreciation there that this anime gave me for retro game development. Just a new perspective. Well, those are all my thoughts there for 16-bit Sensation, Another Layer. I'm pretty sure I could talk a whole lot more about the show. I'll leave it to those thoughts there for now. I think I said most of my pieces, even if they're just nonsensical ramblings. But in any case, I'm quite curious to see what your guys' thoughts are about the show, and your opinions on most of my takes. In which case, feel free to absolutely roast them in the comments section below. And I suppose with that said, if you guys enjoyed the video there, be sure to hit like and subscribe as per usual. And I'll see you guys soon in the next one.